my dad so my dad was like the ultimate pure entrepreneur. Like he's sold more businesses than I've created, and this is just like me asking questions.
So far.
So far. And now it's to the point where he's my go-to person about anything business related, booking, taxes, and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just one of those deals where when I was getting my 200-hour yoga certification, I just kind of seen how things were going. I started following certain people, and they were boosting and bragging about another brand. And it's like, it's different when you're paying to do it and when someone's paying you.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking about all these brands and how I don't fit the mold of what they're looking for, what they think it should look like. I said the only way I can make certain things possible if I do it myself.
All right, today we got Dulani Stephens here with us. Welcome, Dulani. Our mantra here at Success Never Rest is on your worst day, be good. On your best day, be great. And on every other day, get better.
Oh, man. I can steal that.
So, just knowing a small piece of your back history and knowing a little bit about you, we met, I think, at the Big Three.
Yes.
Several months ago. I've been following you on your Beast Vision and Dauntless Source on the IG. And so just seeing that and kind of watching you live that way, I know this is the mindset that you've experienced and you probably live, through an athletic career, business career, and just life in general. So, I want to dig into it now. I want to get to know some of your back history and where Dulani's headed. So let's get into it.
Let's go.
Like I said in the intro, we met at the Big Three last year.
It's about to be a year.
About a year now.
Yeah, it's about to be a
so been watching you grow, following you on IG and different things, watching what you're doing. And so I just wanted to start with, tell us a little bit how, you ended up in this area. I know you're not originally from here. How did you end up here as a young man? And, how did athletics play a role, in your youth?
It's very unique. My dad was basically commuting back and forth, and something just very drastic happened to where it was like, well, if something happens, we need to be closer and not 400 or 500 miles away. So, like you said, I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where Black Wall Street is, very, very prominent area, rich black entrepreneurs, black business people, professionals, and that's what I saw. So when we moved from Tulsa to Plano, it was a complete culture shock. I'm used to seeing people who look like me, and then now it's like it's spotty. It was like the first 6th and 7th grade were different because I was used to being surrounded by, I went to a magnet school, but it wasn't as my middle school was here. Mm-hmm. But as I grew and I evolved, it made sense. Now I've come to find out my dad moved to Plano simply because it was the biggest town, but it was the quickest route to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. We go to Oklahoma a lot as we just came back off the road, but it was just a different feel. But athletically, it almost like I hit the ground running. I'm a football player, played basketball growing up, track as well, collegiately, but football was my thing early, and I knew it, but I kind of was playing another sport. Funny story about athletics, 6th grade, trying to figure out who to play for. Mm-hmm. Of course, I was playing in Tulsa, there was a weight limit. So you had to be a certain amount to run the ball. So I was like, well, I guess I'm not going to run the ball. But I always wanted to compete to get better. I'm the youngest of four children, 2 older brothers. And I followed them. They were playing football. I'm at the football games. Playing basketball, I'm on the bench. I was so in tune with what was going on. It was kind of like this was the way I wanted to go. Yeah. And as I grew up watching certain players and watching certain people, it made sense that I should be in athletics. But yeah, 6th grade, going out for tryouts. I told my dad about the tryouts. He drops me off, and literally No, I'm big. I was a heavy. Joe will tell you I was a heavy set kid, but I was athletic. I was quick. I was like a bowling ball, but I was quick. I had feet, and I was naturally athletic through the growing up, going outside, playing every sport, competing by season. If it's football season, we're playing football, touch tackle, depending on who's playing. Basketball, we're playing 21 tips, different things. And then baseball, we're doing home run, we're playing baseball whatever way. So sports was like a big deal. My dad was an athlete. So he kind of instilled that in us from an early age, and he kind of was like the pioneer of the athletics. Him and all his brothers. He has 5 siblings, and he was the biggest one of his family. But it was just like we had a turkey bowl up until everybody got too old to do it, and now it's on to the younger generation. But it was like I learned to compete at an early age to where when I got to say like 6th, 7th grade, I been getting beat up my whole life by guys who played in the NFL now or who had went through, the neighborhood. So I'm running these drills at PFL, over by Hendrick Middle School, and I'm running sprints. So we're doing a drill, and I'm just trying to keep up. I'm trying to look good, do my best. And then all of a sudden, I get a random introduction, hey, sir, how you doing, da-da-da. Hey, who do you play for? And I was like, play for? I'm just doing the drill. And he's like, well, no, do you have a team? And I'm like, and no, this is my first interaction with a random white guy in my entire life. I'm 12 years old, and I'm just like running away from him, trying to get to the next drill. He's like, no, don't take that way. I just need it. And that was my first time getting recruited. And I never felt that because, when you playing, they put you on the team. So this was like a tryout.
Yeah.
This was like a tryout to see what team you were going to go to. So ended up being like a rival team, and it was like some tampering early on. It was a super unique situation at that age, but athletics and now athletics played such a huge role in my life that was like my carrot.
Yeah.
That was like my carrot, my thing that's going to be like, hey, if you don't pass, you can't play. And now that I'm in academia or I'm in a position of, admin on my athletic side, that's what I preach. I kind of use my background to help my future athletes and let them know athletics is a segue or tool to get where you want to go.
Exactly, yeah. So tell me how football took you from Plano to Moore, Oklahoma.
So I love this story because when I look back, it was a unique scenario, and I thank my dad for believing in me when I didn't really believe in myself. And it was kind of like he saw a situation and how it played out. He was like, I don't want you to get caught up in that. So I'm playing, I was good enough to make the varsity as a sophomore, but I didn't play. So it was like a certain window you had to do before you wanted to move back down. I said, I'd rather play with my age and have fun than go 0 whatever. They end up losing all their games. Yeah. And I was like, that's a gutless feeling. You're getting ready to play and you don't win a game. It's hard to get up for. So my junior year, I get bigger, faster, stronger. I'm feeling like my best. And preseason, I'm just trying to get on the field. The guys are getting in front of me and we're watching film. And my dad is like at one of the quarterback club meetings, and he's just like, kind of funny how he saw it, and he just kind of came to me literally. We're going into our second, third game, and he was just kind of like, what do you want to do? Because he saw it, and he explained it to me, and I was like, what? No, he said, no. And it's one thing for it to be a coach, but it was somebody like who had watched me play throughout my career, who had seen me work and work myself into shape, and he was just like, hey, if you don't want to be here, we can make some things happen, and we can put you in a better situation. So as the game went on, and they haven't won a game in a year, and everybody else is haranguing, and I'm just sitting there sick, like, I really, like, and I'm knowing myself and all the drills and all the work I've worked on, like, why am I not playing? Why am I not out? And I started questioning myself, and literally, I packed up we're walking out to the tunnel, everybody's celebrating, and I just started crying. I literally just started pouring down crying. My mom was there, and I just told my dad, I said, yes. And he already knew what I was talking about. He said, it's yes. And he made a few calls. I slept on it, and this is around Memorial Day. and he was just like, all right, you got 3 options. You can go here, here, or here. And like he already had it worked out to a T, and it was almost like he was willing to do whatever it took, whatever it take for me to live my best life and be successful, but also to help me achieve my dream, help me achieve my goal. And I think a lot of kids don't understand that parents do a lot behind the scenes to make your life the best you want it to be.
Yeah.
So I end up picking Moore because it was the same size school, same type of exposure, 6A football in Oklahoma. It was 6A in Oklahoma before it was 6A in Texas. Yes. So it was kind of the same enrollment size or whatever. And I just said, no matter what, I'm taking somebody's spot. I'm competing. I'm going after. And of course, this is back when, and it's funny because you got Joseph and I literally grew up competing against each other. Yeah. So he was a basketball guy, I was a football guy, and we always cracked up, what do we end up going to the same school, and this, that, and the third, and as kids you dream. So my dream was always to play Division I. Why? You see the pomp and punchery, you see the legacy, the traditions, all those rival games, so it's like, I want to be a part of that. Well, you start to look at the stacks, well, you're only this tall and this big, so you might be at this level, and you start looking at it out, like, you know what, I just want my school paid for. Yeah. That's literally was my goal. I said, whoever has an offer, I'm going to go take it, I'm going to make the best of it, because one, I was just starting to get into like how financials work, and of course it's like you hear people going in debt, going to school, it's like, well, if I can not be in debt and get some school chopped off or get something paid off, it makes for an easier life. Luckily, it all worked out. But yeah, I went to Moore literally in the middle of the night. Nobody knew. I didn't tell anybody. This is back before cell phones were a thing. So I didn't show up. I didn't answer any calls. I almost went ghost. So I spent the whole weekend in Oklahoma trying to figure it out. I think we went up. We went up for the weekend for Memorial Day, and I watched practice. And I wasn't enrolled yet. So I was just kind of like a road kid showing up. And they're like, who is this kid? Where is he coming from? And the coach was like, okay, we'll see how you, because it's like he says, we get a lot of big guys. They always had something to say about Texas, the guys coming from Texas and not being what they're advertised or whatever. Yeah. So when it all happened, it ended up playing in my favor. But I don't want to. I just want to keep going to the next one because it's probably going to build into it. Gotcha.
I got a feeling, I'm a big believer that, we're the product of the 5 people we surround ourselves with on the daily. But I think more importantly is the belief I have that, our success later in life is often due to those 5 people we might surround ourselves with when we're young. So, who were some of your, I know one of these is going to be obviously, you've been harping about your pops, and so I know who one of these is going to be, but who were some of those earlier influences that you had that you can point to now and just say, that person had a lot to do with my success?
And it's kind of funny that my dad was in a frat and coming out of college, so I call them my uncles, were his frat brothers, and they were entrepreneurs, they were successful. And I never really knew what they did, but it's like we go somewhere, he's got a friend or something that's connected to this. We went to one time we went to Kansas City and we bought nosebleeds and he was like, no. He gave us behind home plate with Buck O'Neil right beside us, legendary coach and player. So it's like my dad had a bunch of friends / frat brothers / classmates that I couldn't even name 5 because it was just so many that were surrounded around. But another one would be my Uncle Jemison. And he was one of those guys that I kind of mimicked my life after the other side from my brother, but he had some things, or he said he had some tools that he used to tell me. And of course, going to church or growing up, he was like a surrogate uncle. We went to church together, but I watched, he grew up as I grew up. And then, like, every so often, I would spend the weekend with him, and I would just watch how he lived. So, when he bought a house, I bought a house. He followed certain steps to success. I'm following those same steps now. He had dating guidelines. I got the same guidelines. So, it's just like, you don't think about it until you get to a certain age, but it's like, man, I was getting so much wisdom necessarily poured on me at an early age, to where now at this age, I just feel like I've situations that I'm seeing, and it's like, man, I've heard this, or I've done this before, and it's like, oh, from 5 years ago when I was talking about it with whomever. I see my dad with Jemison, my Uncle Harley. He was always supportive. He was always supportive. My big cousin, I got a cousin, so I got 3 cousins that we all share a different dialect of our name. He was Jelani, Delaney, and then Dulani myself.
All right.
But my uncle, my cousin Jelani, and I'll say his brother Jabbar, but Jelani was the guy that always was supportive. Always was there. From high school, he saw my first college game. And he just had, the graduation I just attended was his son, who is now a high school graduate and a collegiate athlete now going into it. So it's just like, you start watching how people move, and it's a great thing, a great phrase that says success leaves clues.
Yes.
So it's almost like you start putting pieces together and making the puzzle like, oh, okay, this is what it looks like, this is what it feels like, to the point where you can't help but to follow it. Most people try to, I'm not going to go that way. Why not? Why go against the grain? As a coach, I'm giving you the play or the tools to be successful. Why go against that? Why make it hard on yourself?
We got to preach that a lot as coaches. Things I know is like, if we just follow this system, it's going to lead to success.
Yes.
All right, so currently you're the athletic director in Plano, ISD.
Let's talk a little bit about how did that experience you just shared about high school, college, how did that help prepare you for your career now leading youth in this
current position?
It's funny you say that. I every time I have to have a conversation with one of my student athletes, I think about myself as a younger version, but also from times where I've either done something similar or if I was in the same situation. For instance, football season, you got to split teams up, and kids could probably play on one side, but you need them to do something on the opposite side. So it's like that was probably the most disheartening thing is I had so many good players that I had to create 2 teams, and I had to have some talks with some young men about it, saying, hey, this may be the step you need. This may be that challenge that you need to accept to push you forward. It's not a downgrade. It's not I'm not disregarding you, but this is an opportunity to play way more, get more experience, build your confidence up, and help you, fuel you for next season. And with those, and you were talking about challenges, I feel like when you're coaching, it's still a game, but it's also about life.
Yeah.
It's a lot about life. We got a bad break in the game, and my thing is we don't stop until all 4 zeros are up there. I don't care what the score is. We got to play. Every game is going to be your best. Not every game you're going to win, and when you lose, it's not a loss. It's a lesson behind it.
Exactly.
What can we improve on? What did we not execute that we weren't successful at? And then on the flip side, you got to deal with parents. You got to deal with parents, you got to deal with their personalities, and then you got to deal with admin. So I'm also a director at one of the local recreation centers, and that helped fuel me more than I ever thought it would. Like, it's weird how you do something for so long, it becomes natural. It's like a habit. You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to work out, you're going to get in shape, you're going to feel a certain way. Well, me taking these hard conversations with these parents and with these young kids from 5 to 12 to 13 helped me, prepare me to be where I am now at the middle school level. Because before, I was just assistant high school coach. So I was coaching, and I had to deal with parents mildly, but not so much. Now, they know me. I'm getting calls and texts and our app, and they're texting me directly about this, that, and the third. And me being mature enough and having enough polish to respond, set boundaries, and just understand, like, there's always one thing my dad always tells me is there's always going to be something to do. You're never not done. There's always something that can be done, but you don't have to necessarily do it today. You can wait and get it done whenever it's time. So there's just a lot of opportunities where my prior self or my pride challenges. I literally to take a moment, take a deep breath, kind of wooside, and then okay, all right, let's move forward. Let's make our next move our best move.
Cool. Let's turn our attention to entrepreneurship a little bit. I know that's something you...
That's actually something I've been doing forever.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily like in a certain sense, but my dad so my dad was like the ultimate pure entrepreneur. Like he sold more businesses than I've created, and this is just like me asking questions.
So far.
So far. And now it's to the point where he's my go-to person about anything business related, booking, taxes, and what have you. So it was just one of those deals where when I was getting my 200-hour yoga certification, I just kind of seen how things were going. I started following certain people, and they were boosting and bragging about another brand. And it's like, it's different when you're paying to do it and when someone's paying you.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking about all these brands and how I don't fit the mold of what they're looking for, what they think it should look like. I said the only way I can make certain things possible if I do it myself. And I kind of just and there's a certain artist I listen to who talks about taking chances and you don't know what you can do until you do it. And it was just one of those mindsets where what if it doesn't, what if it does work?
Yeah.
You know, the worst thing that can happen is it fail, and if it don't, you try another way. Most businesses don't, perform a profit for 4 or 5 years, and most people are dying and gigging, or it's something that they don't believe in. This is something I'm living by, and I'm living proof of. So it's just, it now is starting to be it's like when I've turned my I've turned my hobby into a hustle, and now I've turned the hustle into a business. So it's just like you start. The more you research, the more you find wisdom. The more you find wisdom, the better you become. You don't get great in one day. You get great over time. People forget MJ didn't make his high school team because he had to work at it. He had to get better. So it's just about improving it and just taking the lumps and moving forward.
I guess tell Mike what got you to the point where I'd say what is the hardest thing about being an entrepreneur and still juggling everything that you're still doing, and or if it isn't?
Discipline. Discipline, I would say. Discipline and consistency. I'm working a full-time with my full-time mentality, but I'm also working my business as a full-time as well. But as he was saying, it was a challenge. Now I've found balance. That's one thing that I was, excuse me. Oh man, excuse me.
Oh, God.
I was I'm on the highway a lot. I'm driving to and from work, or like you said, if I got a 3-hour trip to Oklahoma and back, I just got too much time to think, and I just kind of organize 4 or 5 things together, put them on paper and note them. But one is, no matter what you're doing, if you want to do it, you got to find time for it. You have to carve that time out. You have to. Joe's funny as he brings that up. I'll have an idea and I'll just execute it just cause, and it's like let me get this out before I forget or I lose time. So I'll be driving home from the full time working on the business, and then in the little crevices of the day, I'm posting something or I'm doing something. I'm being as active as I can, but I'm not taking away from either one.
Yeah.
And I think the balance and the understanding that they work hand in hand. When I come home from work, I can focus on this. When I'm at work, I can focus on what I need to. So it's like I have both of them, and they fit in my lifestyle. I think that's the best thing is they're not too far off. I was at I was at a signing day for one of my student athletes, and one of the kids was saying, "Hey man, I need to come to one of your classes." Well, another person who had come to my class was like, "Hey, you know, tell them. Like, I want somebody to tell how it is instead of me telling them. Because if I tell them, I'm selling. But if I tell them, you're a customer referral.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, and you're on the same wavelength as far as high school athletes. It's a different verbiage I'm going to speak than she spoke.
Yeah.
So, just.
All right. Well, so you touched on it a little bit, but I want you to really tell me about your yoga company.
Well,
I'm sure it's one of the few black-owned yoga companies.
That's a lot why I've done it.
So I want you to tell me about this.
So, as a coach, you kind of see guys that are very passionate, very, very outspoken, brash, but when they're winning. We don't talk about when they're down, when they're losing, when they're in their head, when they can't focus, when they got life or something life on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did was, and so I started it literally out of necessity. And by that I mean I was in the pandemic in 2020. I had gotten broken up with in June, and then I got broken up again in December. So I went through 2 relationships, and as I grew, my practice grew. I'm a runner. I've run 6 5Ks, 2 half marathons, and as I was running, of course you tweak, your body shuts down.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to find something in those hours where I was stuck in the house and just trying to figure what can I occupy my mind with. And of course, yoga was one of those things that my college coach, I thank him every time I see him. In college, he was my track coach, Jimmy Hilliard. Give him a shout out, Langston University, best Hall of Fame coach ever. I want to give him his flowers, but he was the guy who literally, I'm coming to practice. I was course big, strong, explosive, but I had no hip mobility. So his thing was, if you can unlock your hips and get hip mobility, you'll throw the shot put, the discus farther than if not. Mm-hmm. So for like 2 months straight, I had to do an hour of yoga on a VHS tape, rolled out on a cart, and he made it. I did it for. So I started my yoga company out of necessity. I was in the pandemic 2020, too much free time, body was shut down, couldn't run like I wanted to. So I started practicing yoga again. College coach introduced it to me as a shot putter and discus thrower, and he said, you'll be better and you'll be more at peace if you do this. And of course, I was always a stickler for following the rules or just taking the coaching just because I wanted to improve. I wanted to be better. I was always taught to trust the experts.
Yeah. So
I did it for about 2 or 3 months. Felt more limber, more loose than I think I've ever had in my career. I was kind of mad I didn't have it before playing football.
Mm-hmm.
But, of course, like many things in college, they wavered off. I visited back more when I was a runner. The pandemic really kind of opened my eyes up of what was possible with the mentally and the mental and the physical coming together. So I was thinking, we all talk about, being our best and pushing the envelope and working hard, but we never talk about the mental aspects that goes with that.
Yeah.
Most guys, if they had control of their minds, they would be that much better athletes. So my goal was to blend the two, my athletic prowess with the yoga, and kind of make it into a, we call it a practice in yoga, but make it a actual practice. You go lift weights, you go run, you do conditioning, you can throw some yoga in there and be a world of difference.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to practice with my Vita wrestling team a couple of times, and it was just it was refreshing to see them take the yoga, but also take the mindfulness that I was teaching and put the two together. Yeah. And I said it's funny how wrestlers are these aggressive, attacking, and in Oklahoma, it's a religion.
Yeah.
It's a religion. So to see these guys that are shooting and trying to pin people and they're sweating on each other, to be sitting there meditating and calming their nerves down, it was a different feel. So as I've grown, the practice has grown, but also it's like now I'm becoming something that you want to try out. So, and I have parents who research me just so they can be like, is this for real or is this legit? Because I don't fit the mold of what a yoga instructor is supposed to look like. Yeah. And I let them know, ma'am, I'm just letting you know it's effective. It's much more effective. And I always use someone who's taken my class and say, do you mind explaining how it is for your body? Because everybody's body is different.
Yeah. So, how would our listeners find you if they wanted to do some yoga?
So you can follow me at Dauntless Source on my Instagram. Twitter is Dauntless Source with a 3 at the end. Somebody took it. 3 instead of an E, it's a 3.
Posted.
Yeah, and also with the merch line. But no, I'm working on getting it updated, putting some classes online and making it to where it's virtual or people connect in. But I just wanted to be able to share something that I utilize and that other athletes can utilize as well.
All right. I want to let's move into decision making.
Beautiful.
You've made some big decisions as a young man and obviously as an adult. We all have big decisions to make from time to time in our lives, and everyone approaches them different. So I like to, kind of take a little bit of time, and how do you make difficult decisions, and how do you approach them?
It kind of depends on the timing of it. Yeah. So I have this. I'm a planner, so I like to have at least 24 hours if someone's asked me to do something, just so I can check my schedule, just so I can do certain things. But I think when you think about decisions, you got to think 5 minutes, 5 years, 10 years down the line. Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? How is it gonna make you go forward, or is it gonna bring you back? Is it an upgrade or is it a downgrade? Is it gonna elevate you or is it going to downgrade you? Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I look at things and scenarios and play all the factors out. When I was, of course, when I was teaching, well, when I was still teaching, but when I was looking for teaching jobs, I had to weigh the positive and the negatives, and then, okay, what's the pay? What am I going to have to deal with? Is this pay worth it? Yeah. How's the commute? How's this? How's that? So there's a lot of different factors that play into it, but also now when you're coaching, you're playing out, okay, what's this play gonna do? Okay, what do I have a play for that play? What do I have, like, what is my personnel gonna be? Mm-hmm. Who can I do it? Is that person injured? Is that person hurt? There's so many different factors that when you think about it, we do it on a regular basis, but we kind of forget about it in real life. Like, we do it at work, but we forget about it in life. Mm-hmm. So it's like you want to be able to do both at the same time, but just kind of sit back, take a breath. I meditate a lot more now that I know how to, and I kind of just let things kind of fall in place from there with that decision. Gotcha.
So I'm someone that believes that our obstacles are basically our way. They're what makes us who we are, the challenges in our lives. So can you talk a little bit, take time, you've overcome obstacles and personal challenges, obviously. How's it impacted your career?
I always refer it to a bad play. Don't let it hold you hostage. Look forward to the next one. Every obstacle is meant to make you stronger and make you better. Yeah. You may lose a game that was detrimental or end your season, but if you got a strong core, you got something to build off of. You have a core memory that's going to build off of. If you make a bad, misstep, how can you improve from it? I think people, and I say people as an overall, we forget that there's beauty in challenges. Yeah. There's always a silver lining in challenges, and we kind of get stuck in, the woe is me, or why am I getting this instead of, I get to overcome this challenge. Yeah. I get to move forward. I get to move this way. So one of my toughest, I'll go a throwback, how I ended up at Langston. I was at A&M Kingsville because I wanted to get out of India. I had spent there 3 semesters, and I just was like, I can't take it here anymore. I had a family member who was a coach at a school at Kingsville. Went in, worked out, was on the verge of making the team, but I failed. I failed a class, so my GPA dropped. I wouldn't have been eligible to play that season, and I had to pay for summer school. Well, my dad was like, well, where you gonna stay? Where you gonna do this? Where you gonna do that? You know, have you thought about all of that? So I literally said, well, I'm coming home. I'm gonna come home, I'm gonna figure it out. And I took the summer to literally get my mind together. And lo and behold, it was late July. No, it was in July. And I had looked up Langston's admissions, GPAs, all that information. I filled it out by hand because digital wasn't a thing, and I sent it off. And I was just sitting there waiting, like, man, I haven't heard anything. I had got my official transcripts from the previous 2 schools. Like, I had done all this footwork on my own, and I was just like, man, I need to get out of. And now I was working over the summer. I was like, hey, yeah, I need to go check this out if the semester's starting. So I literally it was the night before I was going to leave, and my dad, funny enough, my dad is like, I walked in and said, hey, all right, my mom and dad just sitting there watching TV, and I said, hey, I'm going to Oklahoma maybe for a couple of days, but I need to see about this paperwork I sent to Langston just so I can talk to him in person. I may go do A, B, C, or D. And my dad's laying down, he pops up and says, you going to do what? And I said, yeah, I think I'm going to just try to go to Langston to finish out this degree or, you know, finish out college and hopefully walk on. And not any other response was, when do you want to go? What time are you trying to leave in the morning? And it was like he did all the legwork I needed to talk to this person. Oh yeah, we got his like it was almost like everything I was stressing about, he had the golden ticket for. And then I went to the football. We went to the football office first because like, you trying to play? I said, yeah, man. I still feel like I got something. You know, I feel like I can get some money. I feel like I can. I don't know what it feels like to be a normal student. And if I got the ability to, I went from JUCO, which was basically like the cream of the crop in Oklahoma, and guys who just didn't have the grades, too short, too small, and we were trying to go somewhere else. I went to D2, that was a real big leg up. I felt like I could have competed at that level, but I just didn't have the resources, and I was on the side where NAIA, I was right in my niche. I was right where I needed to be. And, you know, they gave me a call. He said, yeah, man, let me make some calls to make sure some kids aren't showing up. And if we do, we'd love to extend them a walk-on to get a scholarship. So that happened. Paperwork went through. We're headed back home on I-35, headed south towards Plano. And literally, I had to pack a bag that same day and night to get back up there by a certain time. So it was just like, wow. My whole, in a matter of 48 to 25 hours, my whole trajectory of life just changed, and that huge obstacle changed my life forever.
Yeah. Cool. I want to talk a little bit about, I know most successful people, they generally have a cause organization that helps drive them as well. You know, what is that for you? You have an organization or something that...
My church.
Your church?
My church is I teach twice. I teach at least once a month on a Sunday, but I dedicate 2 Sundays for my yoga group that I'm affiliated with, Flow in Nature in Oak Cliff. And we do a lot of work. We actually have a Feed the Streets. We have a fundraiser / community service piece we're doing. But I feel like when everything just went a certain way, my church and my church family was there to lift me up. Yeah. And it's like, as a grown man now, you think of it differently, because when you're forced to go to church, you're like, man, I don't understand this. And until you're down and out, until you're struggling, until you're just, you know, you have nothing left, those are the people who know you and love you for you. Yeah. You know, I'm 34 years old, but I'm still such and such boy, or such and such baby boy. Mm-hmm. And they've been knowing me since we moved to Plano, so it's just, I feel like that was my foundation and my backbone, but also my parents. I mean, I wouldn't call them an organization, but they they give, and they
Yeah.
give so intentionally, and they give to help, and they, you know, may not be money, but it's time, it's their energy. They're, you know, they're a part of so many different organizations and causes and whatnot, to where you kind of take that on.
Yeah.
So with me, my goal is to always leave something better than I came into it.
Okay.
And that foundation of just being able to watch amazing people, you know, give happily and give fulfillingly was kind of one of those deals where I was like, okay, this is what I should be doing. And it's almost like when you do that, you get more than you ever would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just finish up with, you know, what do you hope, you know, to use your success and this future success for, you know, in your future, and how do you plan to impact your community with it?
Oh, by giving more. By giving more. I have a lot of things I want to do, but also I don't want to do it for the sake of, oh, it's me. I want to do it to let them show, like, this is what's possible.
Yeah.
If you're following the steps or the secrets to success. You know, there's this thing where you have to be a certain way or do certain things to be successful. And I think we kind of overlook the small victories as successes. You know, we look at, oh, the bigger picture. Well, if you didn't do this step, then this step wouldn't have happened.
Exactly.
And you got to kind of have to build on success. You know, you don't win a championship in the first week. You build throughout the season,
Yeah.
and you celebrate those small victories to achieve a championship.
Yeah.
John Wooden, great coach, says, I never coached to win, but I always coached to compete, and the result was winning.
Yes.
So it's just like one of those deals where you want to do small things, and then those lead to bigger things.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. I like to look at, you know, doing your best in every single moment, opportunity you
for sure.
have is success. And if you keep stacking those little ones up, like you said, you're going to have the overall
and
success.
that's exactly
So-
what I've been following my whole career, my whole life, and that's what I live by. My student athletes, my brother said, you want to get 1% better.
Yep.
Every day you want
Every
to get
day.
1% better. So that's kind of my mantra. That's what I live off of. That's what I teach, and that's kind of what I live by.
All right. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. Let's try to do this not too
Oh, man.
awkwardly.
No problem, man.
Good to see you, my man.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.